My name is Janet Rogan. I am the UK's COP26 ambassador for Africa and the Middle East. So why, you might think, are we still talking about this? Because COP26 was last November. Well, let me tell you from our perspective, what do we think these COPs are all about? What does COP even mean? Conference of Parties. All of the nations of the world coming together once a year to decide on yet more talking? I hope not. Since we're just about coming up to New Year, which is a moment of reflection and a moment of renewal, it made me think back to the very beginning. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth, right? Separated the firmaments. And it was all darkness. It was all darkness. There was a power cut. And God said, this is not good. We have to fix this. What am I going to do? Let there be light. So we create the sun. The first innovator gave us the beginning of solar energy. And everything we've done since then has been on the basis of the sun's energy captured in the resources that we've been using up on the planet. Whether it's coal, whether it's oil or gas, now solar panels, even wind power is coming because of differences in temperature and the way the wind currents flow around the planet. So since time immemorial, we have been depending on innovations as human beings to make use of the resources of our planet. In the process of which, in the last 300 years or so, which is a tiny fraction of the time that human beings have existed on the planet, we have managed to trash the planet to such an extent that it's fighting back. And we are finding that the rainfall seasons have changed, the temperatures are rising, the sea has changed, biodiversity is falling. We are finding bigger challenges in our everyday lives. And we now know and we understand the consequences of our development over the last 300 years has been to do this. So it's up to us to decide how we can change. And how can we do that differently? How can we waste less? How can we be more efficient? How can we pollute less? Can we have cleaner ways of living? We are a very urbanized society. For the first time, I think last year, more of the world's population lives in urban environments than in rural environments. The future is electrified. The future is electricity, power. Somewhere in the wrong place here. The future is power. So how are we producing that better than we did it before? When we've come together as governments every year to have these big conferences, back in 2015 we had a very important one when we reached the Paris Agreement. We then spent 5 years figuring out what we just agreed to. Yeah. Up, further up, +1 for COVID, and we had COP26, at which we shared with each other what we were all going to do as countries in order to reach the target of keeping global warming below 2 degrees. Since then, we've made plans, our governments have announced plans, private sector has moved, innovation and technology has increased. We still haven't yet caught up in the right kind of financial models to be able to finance all of this. No matter where you are in the world, whether you're in the developed world or the developing world, we need different models of finance. But basically at COP26 at Glasgow, the world agreed that we were now going to stop talking and really get on with doing. So when we go to COP27, and we, the UK, hand on the baton to Egypt to take forward at Sharm el-Sheikh, we will see a lot of emphasis on implementation. So I really congratulate Israel. Thank you. I really congratulate Israel for having the first Israeli pavilion at COP27. It's a great time to have a pavilion now to talk about what are we doing and how are we going to innovate and how are we going to work with our neighbors in the region, with our partners elsewhere. The UK and Israel are great partners, and we've been partners in technology and innovation for a very long time. We're great trade partners. We have, I think, the last count was over almost £5.5 billion worth of bilateral trade between us. We look at the UK as a place where we are scaling up, we're accelerating the kind of innovations that come from Israel, and we welcome that kind of partnership. We want to see that expand because it's only by scaling up these kind of technical innovations and solutions that we will be able to address challenges that we're all facing when it comes to climate. Climate impacts do not respect borders. Climate impacts don't care about our conflicts and our peace processes and our other challenges. Climate is affecting all of us. So when we come to solutions, we have to find solutions that are global. This side? Yeah. Okay, sorry about technical challenges, what can I say? So when we are thinking about solutions, we have to be thinking about solutions that are scalable, that work across our borders, that cover regions. We're talking about energy, we're talking about food security. Earlier this year, we were just talking about agriculture and water. Now we're talking food security. This is a big issue. Earlier on, we were talking about just energy transition. Now we're talking energy security. These are global issues. And we're now at the phase where we understand these issues and we know we have to work together to do it. But this is why innovation is so crucial, because we cannot keep on with the same old ways of doing things. It's almost a truism to say the Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones, self-evidently. But the oil age is not going to end because we ran out of oil or gas. It's because we are innovating, we are changing, we are finding better ways to do things. We are finding ways that will grow food more efficiently. We'll try to not waste as much food in our modern lives. We'll try to not create as much damage in our planet, in our biodiversity. And after COP27, we also have the biodiversity global conference coming up in December in Canada. All of these things are linked. And when we start thinking differently, we start thinking together as governments, as private sector, as innovators, as investors, as communities, as individuals, we find the complexity of this challenging agenda is something that we can collectively start to manage because none of us can do it on our own. Governments have a role to set the legislation, to set the regulation, to follow up on the targets, to really provide the impetus behind investment, to share the risk. Private sector has a role because private sector looks at risk very differently from governments do. Investors look at risks very differently. We need models that take us through sustainable transformation, that can see us through the multiple changes that are coming in our world and the challenges that are ahead of us. This is also why it's great to see so many young people involved in innovation and technology, and in Israel in particular. But the world is seeing the greatest number of young people ever in existence. And growth in our urban areas, in the way that we live together, is technology-driven. So as we look to the future, we're not saying youth are the leaders of the future. Youth are here now. Youth are already leading. And I think when we look at some of the innovations that are coming up now, and we hear the winners from the competition today, who's actually going to go to Sharm el-Sheikh and be there to represent Israel and be part of this global change. I'm not even going to say global movement because it's change we need. We need action, and we need it to be happening fast and going forward without barriers or boundaries. Sharm el-Sheikh is going to be an enormous, enormous opportunity. I will be very honored to come and find the Israeli pavilion when we're in Sharm el-Sheikh. I hope some of you will find time to come and see the UK pavilion, those of you who are going to be lucky enough to travel. And together we will find ways of bringing a little bit of difference to the world and the way we are working that will really, really transform it for the future and for future generations. We're in the Rabin Center, and looking through, and I always like to think of a quote that is inspirational. He said, we must think differently. We must look at these things in a different way. Peace, he said, requires a world of new concepts and new definitions. And I think that applies actually to the way we live in the modern world and the way as societies and communities we exist with each other. We have to think differently. Innovation is not just about thinking differently, it's about being differently. And if we're going to live this and take it forward, we're going to invest in it, we're going to trust each other, we're going to take risks with each other. We're doing it because we understand where we've come from and where we're going. So I think we're now on the road to COP27. After COP27 in Egypt, we will have another one in the region in Dubai, hosted by the United Arab Emirates. So we see continuity going forward as well. None of these issues are resolved in 1 year from one COP to the next. They are a continuity. It is about driving forward progress. So thank you very much for your innovation, for your engagement today. Please keep spreading the word. It's not just about the people in this room, it's about everybody else out there. The UK, alongside Israel in this hugely important change and endeavor, I think we'll manage to make some real transformations. Thank you very much.